How to evaluate your game. I'm Tony. Welcome back to Streetball Strategy.
Are you clean? Is your mind in the flow or caught in between? Bounce that ball, feel the rhythm align. If it's not fun, you're wasting your time.
Today we're talking about how to evaluate yourself and your game to know where you're at as a player and how to get better. I'm making this video because a couple weeks ago, I randomly jumped into a 2-on-2 game that I never expected to play. I was out here recording a video, and in the middle of a few teenagers showed up and started shooting around. And that's fine, it was all good. I finished recording my video. When I did, there was 3 guys out here. I left, I went home, changed clothes, put my gear away, came back with the hopes that if they were still out here, I would see if they wanted to play some 2-on-2. And they were gracious enough to let me play with them. Now, this was completely random. I don't know them. They just showed up, and I thought, well, my body feels decent today, so let me just give this a try and see how it goes. So we played 2-on-2, and after the game, I was evaluating myself to see how I did that game. And it was just one single game. We played a game, we talked, we got to know each other a little bit, and then they left and I went home, and that was it for the day. And as I was thinking back on that game and how I did, it made me think about, okay, it doesn't really matter for me because I'm super retired from active competition. I was twice these guys' age. I've been retired for almost as long as they've been alive. So I'm evaluating myself doesn't really mean anything for me, but for you guys, for you young active players, how can you guys evaluate yourselves in a way that's simple yet effective so you know where you are and thus where you can go and grow as a basketball player? So today, let's talk about how you can evaluate yourself as a basketball player. I'm going to come at this from the 3 usual common criteria that I break things down on this channel. And that is physically, mentally, and psychologically. How you can evaluate yourself in a generic yet effective way to understand where you are as a basketball player and thus where you can grow and improve. So let's start with the sort of easiest and most obvious way to evaluate yourselves that most players do, most casual players do, just sort of instinctually, naturally, which is, how did I do physically? Sort of the overall approach I think is best to take from a physical standpoint is, how did your body react? Because the ideal physical reaction of your body as an athlete and basketball player is your mind tells your body to move and to react. And from that, you expect your body to immediately and automatically do what your mind tells it to do, the exact way, the exact intensity that you expect it to perform. The overall idea being all of your physical movements are automatic and exactly what you expect them to be. Now, your expectations have to be realistic. Like, as a player, as an athlete, you will never jump as high as you would like. You will never be as fast as you want to be. But from a realistic expectations point of view, ideally, physically, when you tell your body to do something, if your body does that from a physical standpoint, then you're great, right? But most players, there's always some kind of improvement that can be made, right? You're not going to move as fast as you would like. You don't jump as explosively or high as you would like. You're not laterally as quick or as light on your feet as you would like to be. Maybe your reaction time isn't as quick or as automatic as you would like it to be. Those are the kind of things that you should keep in mind as you're evaluating yourself from a physical standpoint. Realistically, could your body have responded and reacted better? Or are you just already top tier? The reason this is the most common way for players to evaluate themselves is because it's the easiest. It's like, okay, well, I didn't run as fast as I would have liked to. That means I have to work on my speed, or I didn't jump as high or as explosively as I would have liked to. I got to work on my plyometrics. Physically evaluating yourself is most common because it's the simplest thing to correct. Whatever problems you find, you just got to come up with the obvious physical solutions as how to solve those problems. And you can just feel it as you're moving around out here. You can feel if you are slow or sluggish or heavy on your feet or weak or tired or out of breath. Like, you can feel that as you're going through the motions as a player. So not only can you evaluate yourself after the game reflecting on how the game went, but during the game, physically, it's very easy to feel how you're performing. If you're performing well, then you feel great. If you're slow, if you're sluggish, you're tired, if you're heavy on your feet, you can feel that immediately as you're playing. And all of those things are completely correctable. They're very simple. It's not easy to do, but the solutions themselves are fairly simple. That being established, let's move on to the little bit more nuanced aspect, which is evaluating yourself from a mental standpoint. I think the best overall way to describe how you should evaluate yourself mentally comes in the form of how fast did the game play out in your mind? How fast was your perception of the game? So if you want, you can think of it in sort of two extremes, right? The one extreme being the game was going so fast, it was so chaotic, there was so much movement and speed and complication that you couldn't keep up with it. It's like you always felt behind. The game was moving faster than you could keep up with in your mind. The other extreme being like the game's moving so slowly, you can see what's happening, you can tell what's going to happen next, you're kind of bored waiting for the game to play itself out. Those are the two extremes when we're talking about evaluating how you perceive the game mentally. The ideal side of spectrum to be on for that is the game's moving slowly, meaning the more the game moves slowly, the more bored you're apt to get waiting for the game to play out. That just means you have such a extreme understanding of the game that it might actually start to become boring for you to wait for the game to play out the way you already know it's going to play out. That's the ideal version of mentally evaluating yourself out here on the court where you want to be. Stepping back to talking about physically real quick, when I evaluated myself out here from a physical standpoint, there was two conditions. It was one, from a physical standpoint, I was pretty much where I expected myself to be. My standards are really low, being super retired for such a long time, playing against people who are more than half my age. My standards are really low, but I did think that I played as well as I could realistically, physically expect myself to play. When it came to mentally evaluating myself, the two conditions I'm talking about are when I was waiting, like if I'm on defense and I'm waiting for the other team to make their move. So the other team is setting up their offense, trying to decide what they're going to do offensively while I'm waiting for them defensively. As they're setting up, I am watching them, I'm waiting them, I can see what they're doing, and because of my understanding of the game, I can see what they're trying to set up to do. I don't know them, I don't know their playing style or their strategic style as players, but if I do have any kind of talent as a basketball player, it's on the mental end. I always say I would be a much better coach than I ever would be a player. So as they're setting up, I'm just sort of standing in my defensive stance, sort of waiting for them to execute what I already know they're going to execute. But that's not to say anything against them. It's just I am just mentally talented when it comes to understanding the game. That's the first condition. So I'm sort of getting bored from a mental standpoint, waiting for them. The second condition is once they actually started executing and applying the strategy they were trying to execute, then mentally, that's when it seemed to speed up. So it's like slowly waiting for them to execute, and then they're executing. That's because, from a mental standpoint, everything's moving in slow motion for me. But from a physical standpoint, once they start actually executing, and because I'm so under-conditioned and they're half my age, once they started imposing themselves physically, that's when the game sped up for me mentally. Because physically, I couldn't keep up, and because of that, mentally, the game accelerated in those quick moments. So the game mentally moved slowly for me until action actually picked up, and then it was like, okay, I know what they were trying to do. I can see and understand what they're actually doing right now in the present as the play is starting. But because physically I can't keep up, mentally the game is starting to fly by. Whereas like in the past, if I were still young and an active player, as the play was developing, the play itself would still be moving in relative slow motion in my mind. But because physically I can't keep up, it accelerates in the quick moments of the game. Ideally, you'd want the entire game to play out slowly for you so you can completely understand not only what's happening right now, but what's probably going to happen next. But it's much more average and common that the game's just going to move at a steady, understandable pace without going slowly and boringly. That just means that you'll see the game as it's happening. It'll be happening at like 1x speed, and that's good enough for you to understand what's happening and have a decent idea of what's probably going to happen next. If in your mind the game is moving at 1.25 speed or faster, then that means you don't have a grasp of strategy and an understanding of the game yet to be able to have that 1x speed. Because the more you understand the game, the more you understand strategy, the more you understand player psychology, the slower the game becomes, and that gives you more time to understand and prepare and to exploit mistakes. So if you find yourself in that position where the game is moving so fast and you're so confused and you feel like you can't keep up from a mental standpoint because everything's just so fast and chaotic out here in your mind, that's okay. It happens to most new, younger players. It's just a matter of getting experience and dealing with that experience in real time, and then afterwards reflecting on what happened in the game. Hopefully you have game tape of what happened. Go back, study that game tape, see what happened, see how and why it happened. The more you do that, the more understanding you have, and just naturally, the slower the game becomes in your mind. That's also another reason why it's important to watch as much basketball as possible. Not just your own game tapes, but like the NBA and college organized basketball, where you're watching really skilled, experienced players, and so you can watch them, understand what they're doing, how and why they're doing it, what mistakes they're making, how and why they're making those mistakes, just to give yourself a better understanding of the game in general. The better you understand, the slower the game will become in your mind. But it's a matter of understanding and studying, and that takes experience and time. Rounding this out with how to evaluate yourself psychologically, which is my favorite aspect to focus on, because psychological basketball is something that very few players ever consider, and the fewer players that consider it means those players don't have the knowledge and weapons that you do if you do focus on the psychological end of basketball. And really, when we're talking about evaluating yourself psychologically, I think it really just comes down to, are you having fun and enjoying yourself, or are you frustrated? There are all kinds of roads we could go down psychologically as players trying to evaluate ourselves, but to me, the biggest overall bottom line aspect psychological evaluation is, are you having fun? Because that's the definition of recreational basketball. It's to have fun. Now, if you're talking about being an organized player and you have real goals of trying to get a scholarship to college or go professional, that's different. But we're talking about out here recreationally, it's all about having fun. That's the bottom line. Now, you could say this channel is supposed to be about trying to be the very best basketball player you can be, but why? Why are you trying to be that best version of yourself? Because being the best basketball player you possibly can be is fun. So, are you having fun out here? Psychologically, how are you playing? And this, it stems from the physical and mental aspect of evaluating yourself. Because if you're struggling physically and or mentally, then you're probably not going to be having fun. If physically and mentally you're just, everything's easy and you're not struggling, then you're probably having fun psychologically. Or you could have some kind of combination, which like I had, which was physically, I didn't really struggle, but I also didn't play as well as I would have liked. I was pretty much, to my low standards physically, but mentally, I was really good. Physically, I could keep up when dealing with the ramifications of the mental strategy and the way they were trying to play my opponents against me. But for the most part, I understood what they were doing. The game was moving slowly. I knew what was going on. I knew what they were trying to do. I understood it all. It was just physically trying to keep up with them. That was the problem. So you could say technically, physically, I underperformed, but mentally I overperformed. And you could have any kind of combination of that to lead to, okay, well then, from a psychological standpoint, how do I evaluate myself? And for me, it was good enough. I'm not trying to get better as a basketball player at this point. I expected them to play much better than I did, which they did, but my team won, and we played to 15, I scored like 5 points, my teammate scored like 10, but that's probably like from a scoring standpoint, because I'm a passing player, right? I've never been a scorer. That's pretty good for me, even though I didn't play nearly as well as the other 3 guys out here. I still played well enough for my team to win and for me to walk away thinking, you know what? I could have played a lot worse. I didn't play that great. I didn't play anywhere near great, but I could have played much worse than I did, and I didn't. So I don't feel bad about that in any way, shape, or form. So psychologically, I feel fine. Everything pretty much across the board went the way I wanted it to. Everything across the board pretty much went the way I wanted it to, the way I expected it to. I really couldn't have asked to play better. The only way I could have physically have played better was to be in better basketball condition and shape. But like I said, I have no interest in that, because I'm not playing basketball on a regular basis. So there's no need for me to work hard week after week after week from a basketball physical conditioning standpoint to get to that point. So the fact that I was unconditioned to play just 2-on-2 basketball, that's okay with me. So evaluating myself psychologically for me meant I didn't necessarily have fun because I didn't physically play well, but I played pretty much as well as I could have expected, and it was a challenge for me. I knew it was going to be difficult to just out of nowhere play my first game of competitive basketball in however many months it's been. I knew it was going to be challenging and difficult for me, but I'm the kind of player where I relish the challenge. I relish the curiosity to see, how am I going to do? What can I do? Can I actually play well enough to keep up with players who are half my age? So even though it wasn't technically fun, it was interesting, and I did collect a significant amount of data about myself and what's left of my game. It was really informative, and it was a challenge at the same time. And because of that, in that aspect, that relationship, I enjoyed that. And because I didn't play bad, I enjoyed that as well. Had I come out here and I played terribly and embarrassed myself, then I would feel bad. I would feel like, I would feel bad that I wasted their time, like I have no business on the court with them. But that wasn't the case. I played well enough for one game to at least hang with these teenagers, and that's, for me, being super retired, that's good enough for me, and I'm completely satisfied with that from a psychological evaluation standpoint. So those are 3 sort of basic general ways for you to evaluate yourself as a player. Like I said, this video could be like 2.5 hours long. We could get into all kinds of different particulars in this video, but really, I think from a physical, mental, and psychological standpoint, those are really the best big picture ways to evaluate yourself as a player, mostly because they're also effective and they will help you. So I want to thank you guys for watching. If you liked this video, if you found it interesting, if you think it's going to help you to be able to evaluate yourself better as a basketball player and thus grow and make more progress, then please subscribe to the channel and comment below and let the rest of us know when you're playing or after you've played a game, or whether it's practice or drills or workouts or whatever. How do you evaluate yourself? What do you do? What do you think about that helps you the most when you're evaluating yourself. But before you comment, make sure you hit that thanks button down below, because not only does hitting that thanks button make your comment stand out from all the other comments because it highlights them, but it also directly supports the channel. So for anyone that does hit that thanks button, know I genuinely appreciate it. As always, like, share, comment, like I said, make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified whenever any video goes live on this channel. And until then, see you guys next week.
Frustration hits, does your focus break? Or do you channel fire for the shot you'll take? Pressure's a friend or an enemy snare. Evaluate yourself.